Well, hello and good afternoon, or we're going into the evening right now. And I do see we have a few people in chat already. So is my mic clicking? My mic, I think I just ruined it. Is that my back? Is that mine? Testing, testing. Can you hear me?
You're jumping a little bit, or actually a lot of it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I was wondering if it was just me.
Yeah, I plugged my mic back in. I think I'm gonna need a new mic. So I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself real quick. So you guys go ahead and introduce yourself, and I'm gonna go ahead and take care of the mic situation on my end and join you guys.
Okay.
So
Ladies
ladies
first.
first.
Oh, well, hello. My name is Miss Martin Muses, aka Teresa Martin. I love Star Wars more than life itself. Been a fan since it came out in 1977 when I was just a wee little toddler. It's the first movie I remember, and I'm loving that it's going to be Darth Vader tonight because what I remember from seeing Star Wars in the movie theater is he scared the living daylights out of me.
Yes, he's the classic villain. He goes down in history as the classic villain and one of the number one top ones. And yeah, I think George Lucas was brilliant in bringing that out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right, go ahead, Orange Hat.
Well, I am Orange Hat Reviews. I do entertainment news, movie reviews, and whatnot. Also a huge Star Wars fan. I've been a Star Wars fan since I was 2 years old, since I saw the full original trilogy on VHS, because, well, I wasn't born in 77. um, So yeah, I ever since I remember exactly how I felt when I saw the Star Wars all the way back when I was 2 years old. I remember all the feelings, the excitement, the fear, the wonder, all of it. And this book that we're going over tonight is one of my favorite Star Wars books because it goes over one of the most mysterious things of Darth Vader back during the original trilogy era. What's it like in the suit?
Exactly. And this book will tell you exactly what it's like in the suit. I mean, just his explanation in the book and even hear it on Audible. Like I said, I geek out on Audible, I geek out on the books, okay? And it's just crazy good that how, and it really gets into the depth of Vader's thinking and how he dismisses Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think they took the greatness that George made Vader into, and they really set off that really, really well to define him really well, even in the EU. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at who's all in the chat, and then we'll begin this review. So I had Defenders of the Faith came in here and hung out before we started. So thank you for hanging out with us. Mo Legends. I agree. Legends is great. The original classical expanded universe is amazing. And then Zachariah 315, howdy OG Star Wars. How are you doing? And Mr. Lord Vader himself, thank you for coming in. And of course we have, Teresa Pound with us, and she's being ever gracious to everybody in chat. Thank you so much, darling. I might make you a mod. All right. I may make you a mod because I don't think I have any mods in here. Then we have Riff Magos, and he is one of my channel members. Thank you so much. George Lucas truly had the vision. He sure did. And not even, the new owners can even reflect that. And I did hear that they're doing success to Vader in the comics. But when you look at the overall story, they still kind of ruin his character when it comes to who is the chosen one and all that. But we're not here to discuss that. We're here to discuss the classical Vader. So Vader had a real malevolent presence. Yes. And the Lord Vader, what I like about Vader is how he turned to the dark side and what he's like when he's no longer Anakin. Yes. Hi, Sleepy Jedi. Is this Stick? No, joking. Sorry. Stick may join us. He been up for long hours, so he's probably still asleep, which I don't blame him. So, it's all good. It's all good. He's such a great supporter of mine as well. So, Solus Mo Legends, Mo Legend, or Mo Epicness. There we go. I was adding more to that. I buy Legends branded books in hopes of a continuation. Keep up the good work. Yes. And even though we don't like that brand, there's a lot of books that are not being reprinted. Like even the Young Jedi series is not being reprinted. But if you get a chance to get a book and it has the Legends logo, just buy it because it tells Disney Star Wars where we want our money to go. All right. And howdy, Miss Martin Muse. There you go, darling. Yeah. All right. So with this, within the timeline, if you guys don't know, this happens right after the Clone Wars ends. So right after Revenge of the Sith, this is basically it's a sequel book. And if you read them, you can make this into a trilogy where you have the Labyrinth of Evil, Revenge of the Sith, and Dark Lord, Rise of Darth Vader. They read well as a trilogy, and they were intended to read well as a trilogy. So we have this 19 BBY battle battle before Yavin, and then the worlds that are visited are Alderaan, Coruscant, Jaguda, Kashyyyk, Murkana, and Tatooine. And of course, we have Darth Vader, Roan Shrine, who is a general, Holy Starstone, who is a Padawan, Bol Shitak, which is another general, and Jedi Knight as well, and of course Palpatine and Bail Organa. And so those are the main ones. So in the beginning of the book, we have we have the garrison on Murkana includes like General Shrine and Commander Salvo, and the book is opened up to Order 66. So Teresa, what did you think about that part of the book when we discover that Order 66 is being enacted?
Well, I was a little bit confused, to be honest, because the way they had it in this, the clones were able to resist. And from what I gathered from the books and what we've seen, it's like it was like flipping a switch, that the clones did not actually have the ability to do so. And I know it was explained a little bit that Palpatine said that contagion happened, but I remember thinking maybe I was missing something, but I thought it was very clear that no matter what, it was like the clones didn't have free will and they could not resist Order 66. So when that happened, I remember thinking it was very odd.
Yeah, and this was basically written before, or was it written before? Yeah, this was written before the decision of the chips being put in the clones from the Clone Wars. And so this also lends to that, yeah, they are reprogrammed genetically to listen to their commanders and all of that. Hello. And but there's also, like the generals and the commanders and stuff who do have some free will thinking. And because of that, and because this is during the time when the chip wasn't even relevant, and I think that was a weird thing to do. But we're not going to go into the technicality of that. That's just the only difference between the book and then what was introduced in the Clone Wars. So we have them acting free will. They're, responding to their generals, and they're like, why are they saying we have to kill them? And so from there, they're like, hey, you guys go ahead and go, but if we come across you again, we will have to kill.
Yeah.
I also like one of the warnings that that Commander Salvo gave to Roan. He's like, if you so much, or if any of us repeat what you just said, we will blast the hell out of you.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, the reasons why they disobeyed was, I love the reason that he tries giving Lord Vader. It's like, we didn't know if this was a separatist infiltration or what. We don't. This was just way out there as an order. I mean, yes, this order is a contingency, but we didn't really see any merit as to why the order came down. So it's like, what the hell is going on?
Exactly. There was that confusion, and of course they're programmed to listen to their higher up. So when the Jedi are speaking to them, they're like, why are they telling us to do that to them? We don't kill our own.
Exactly.
And so I thought that was good.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
that was one of the things that Palpatine pointed out to Vader when Vader actually asks what was the reason behind their disobeying the order. Contagion.
Mhm.
Even the best soldier can become a sum of their experiences.
Yeah.
They've been in league with the Jedi for some of these clones have been too in league with the Jedi that their loyalty no longer stood with the Republic but with the Jedi.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the whole chip thing with the Clone Wars, as much as I enjoy the Clone Wars, I can separate it from my canon, which is Legends,
Hmm.
and still enjoy it. But
Yeah.
I never ever liked the chip idea because it's like, no, there were clones that disobeyed the order, and you even see Rex disobey the order in Clone Wars. He fights
Hmm.
the programming until he can't anymore. And it's
Yeah.
like, if that chip is so absolute, well then how is he even able to fight it? That's why a lot of it made no sense. With what they
Exactly.
did in here, it made sense because another favorite book of mine is Order 66,
Yes.
which is part of Karen Travis's Republic Commando books.
Yeah.
The Knolls heard the order. One of them hears the order and he's like, "It'll be done, my lord." And then he's like, "Nah, fuck that. I'm not doing it." Oh, sorry.
Yeah. He's like, oh, whatever. Yeah. And go ahead, go on, and I have something to add to that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so when you look at the movie Attack of the Clones, when what's her name, Ton Wing was talking to Obi-Wan about how they program the clones in the tanks and stuff, genetically altering them. They talk about genetically altering them. They don't talk about putting a biological chip in them. And so that's where that plot hole is.
Yeah, because they were saying when they made them, they age faster and they're less dependent than the original host. That's all they basically did. They didn't, with minor differences with the clone commandos and the clone troopers. All the troopers, they depended on orders. They needed somebody to give them orders. They couldn't really function outside of somebody or of a commander. So, but with the commandos, Delta and Omega Squad plus the Knolls, well, the Knolls were they were considered complete failures by the Kaminoans, but the commandos, they were able to work without commanders. They were able to go out on their own because they were basically spec ops.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so we have Zazine. So hopefully I said that right. I think it's from before the Clone Wars chip idea. Yeah, in the Battlefront 2 game from this time, they talk about their feelings about Order 66, also putting down a clone revolt later. I'm not too privy on the games. I don't know if Teresa is, but are you, Orange?
Yes, I know exactly what he's talking about. In Battlefront 2, the story or campaign mode is basically being told by the 501st, by Vader's Fist. And Tamara Morrison does a great monologue of the Second Battle of Kamino, basically, where the old clones, the clones that were from the Clone Wars, had to go suppress Kamino because Kamino turned against the Empire. And they were creating clones to stand against the Empire, and Boba Fett led the assault.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I do recall that, but I haven't played the game, so I don't know exactly the game lore, what it comes to and stuff. So I love talking to the gamers because then it lends a little bit more of ideas and helps me expand a little bit more on what's really going on in that time frame. EU has so many avenues to look into. And so many resources even within Darth Lord this timeline here. Another great book to read along with this is Kenobi, because this happens around the same time. The Master and the Apprentice, their stories, happen straight after what's going on. So I think that's really brilliant as well. So we have that they flee, they try to get off Merkur, and so they they have that struggle. I said Merkur, sorry. Mercana. Yeah. Keep on doing that with Mercana. So Merkur is the planet with the Isabella Mary, and Mercana is this one here. So
wrong story.
Wrong planet. You're on the wrong M planet, Alora. Yeah, and so then we have Darth Vader, who is still becoming accustomed to the shortcomings of his new mechanical body, and how the Emperor now is saying, I need to start using you to lay down the law for me, which is really goes reminiscent into Darth Plagueis, where Sidious was being used as Plagueis's pawn to get what he wants. And so now he's doing that to Vader. And so he's like, you need to enforce my laws and all this, and you need to, go ahead and go investigate, what's going on in Mercana. He's already got news that, there's clones that are not obeying his orders. And so we also get the scene within that too, when Vader is, talking about himself and disassociate himself from Anakin and how he's feeling in the suit. So Teresa, go ahead and expand a little bit more on what you thought about that.
I thought that was one of the strongest chapters in the entire book, when they described what it was like for Vader inside of that suit. Just things like, as much as how he heard, how his hearing was completely different, how he had no true sense of touch, that he had to actually transform, that everything that he felt as a flesh and blood human being was being transformed into something completely mechanical, and how he needed to learn how to distinguish different sounds and frequencies. I felt very claustrophobic during that chapter. So it's very well written.
Yeah. Yes, it is. And it just gave me chills, because he's like, is this, he describes like, is this living, how he describes this, and, just his little paraphrase. And I wish I should have grabbed a book so I can read that verb, quote by quote about how he's describing it. But, basically he's like, is this a true way of living? He's trapped in this. Is this advice for Palpatine to control me, basically? So, yeah,
exactly.
So, yeah, and Orange Hat, go ahead and expand on that part.
Basically, after he got up from hearing the order to go to Makrana and put down this clone revolt, he basically, they give, or he's like, he stands and he's like, this isn't walking. And then he goes over how badly made the legs were and how poorly the boots fit the suit, how basically very uncomfortable the suit is. He had to use the Force to walk and to stay upright in his first weeks to months in the suit.
Yes. And, so that was that. Every time I read that part, if I revisit the book or whatever, or even when I hear, and hearing on Audible is friggin' amazing too. But every time I go past that part there, it's like, it just chills, because, he's so used to, he got so used to his actual, bionics, his body, his being capable through the Force, being free, and now he is imprisoned, not in the sense of like how he was with when Watto had him and his mom, but now even more so, he's become a imprisoned slave now, if you think about it.
Yeah. And it's almost like, was this like worth living like that? But I guess the dark side was just so powerful in him that just kind of overruled any death wish that he might have.
Yeah. Oh, we lost Orange Hat. Hopefully he'll pop in.
The dark side got him.
Yeah, it's like, you are done. Yeah. And then so he ends up going to Mercana and, tangling with, rounding up, figuring out what happened with the clones, the troops there, and rounding up potential Jedi and taking potential, seizing the planet, basically. And so we have that scene there where he, when Rowan and Lee flee, and they go aboard the drunk dancer, which also leads to, is it Rowan? Is Mom's the captain of the drunk dancer, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And so what do you think about that little scene of him, rounding up and talking to the clones, getting answers from the clones, but also realizing that there are Jedi there? So
That whole scene with Vader. Let me make sure I'm hearing you correctly. Yes.
yes, that whole scene with Vader. Because I just envision they're trying to be nonchalant. Roan is telling them to toss their sabers, and and then Oli is like, why don't you want to be Jedi anymore? He's like, we can't be Jedi right now. We can't be obvious,
Yeah.
leave and do something else. And she's like, no, we still have to be Jedi. We need to know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, and I also liked that. Okay. I think I know where you're getting through with that, because they didn't quite figure it out yet that, hello, it's all done. It's gone. And along that same vein, when Vader pops up, that they don't realize necessarily who they're dealing with, literally, for example, Anakin, but also how dangerous he is. And they find out pretty quick.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Yay.
Well,
I'm back.
Okay. All right, welcome back. We're talking about when Vader goes to Mercana, and he basically investigates why the troopers weren't obeying the command of Order 66, and also confronting the Jedi while he's rounding up I guess you could say prisoners, because he does siege the planet as well, because now Palpatine's cleaning up and he's organizing his empire. And what I think, and I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit, and we'll also discuss it once we get there. We already know that, he is cleaning up, and he also is looking for, slaves and stuff for the Death Star. So, and that's as far as I'll go until we get there. So, with Roan not wanting to be Jedi versus Oli saying, hey, wait a minute here, we still need to be Jedi. We need to know what's going on. We need to investigate. And that push and pull, and how they have confrontation with Vader on Merkur. So that's a lot to digest right there in that little scene.
Zenzine just has the name of the planet that they're still on, Mercana, and you still mistaked it.
Yeah, did I say Merkur again?
You said Merkur again.
It's okay, we knew what you meant.
Yeah, but when he actually arrives, he actually gets into a scuff with Bolchatak. Or right after he sent Appo after the other, after Salvo and them, because they're like, look, no offense, but we're not buying this bullshit. And he's like, okay, you're dead. And because Vader was not having it. And then when he was looking through the crowd, he sensed Oli Starstone and started going straight toward her, and that's when Bolchatak came in, when they all, or she was the only one who didn't listen when they said, get rid of the sabers and whatnot. And that's actually another important part, because she actually managed to get a glancing blow on Vader, but then Vader just beat her into submission, took off her arm and then her head. And it's like, oh, damn. And
yes,
I feel bad for the droid that was helping him back when he returned to the ship, because it's like, he lost it on that droid, man. He's like, he basically destroys that droid because it sent a cascade of electricity up his arm and to his main control panel. It's like, useless droid, and he's just freaking losing. And the Emperor is looking at him, and he's like, your energies are wasted on that droid. I mean, what happened? And he was just, oh man, Palpatine really lays into Vader in this book.
He does. He really does. And like he even says when he's addressing it, where I'm just jumping ahead a little tiny bit because I was like, whoa. He's like, when they're talking about the master versus apprentice thing, and how Vader goes like, I am the learner, you are basically, he says he doesn't acknowledge Palpatine as his master, and Palpatine's like, why aren't you saying I'm your master, kind of deal. And I'm like, oh crap, he's like laying down the law and telling them, you ain't nobody without me, kind of deal.
Indeed. And he basically says, he's like, what's this, trailing your words as if I don't know their destination?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he really lays into him, and he's like, we've won. Your BS obsession with the Jedi, you don't need them. Except that Vader is just too... He's like, there's only 2 exceptions to the rule of hunting down these Jedi. Yoda, Obi-Wan. Those are the only 2. Because they are the only 2 alive that know who he is. Or that knows who Anakin is and what Palpatine is. They are the greatest threat to the Empire. So that is why they are the sole exceptions. But to the rest of them, Palpatine's like, let him go. Let him hide. Let him be humbled by our victory. We won. Let it go.
Yeah.
We have more important things to do.
His petty Jedi friends, basically.
Yeah, it's like, we got more important things to do. Our Empire is still basically a newborn. We need to nurture it and solidify it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And we also get, we find out, family heritage with Roan, because the starship that they get on, the drunk dancer, is his mom, Jula, is the pilot.
Yep.
Or that's her ship. And we also get to learn about how she feels about the Jedi and why she did not, and how it ruined her family, because the dad's like, we are honored to have this Force use take our son so he could be a Jedi. And he gets his Force abilities from her, not the father. And she is very free-spirited, I guess you can say. And so she didn't want that. She wanted him to decide what he wanted to do with his own life and not be, confined to the Jedi way.
And it broke up their marriage. It was actually kind of tragic a little bit there.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry. Another fun part of that whole little family reunion, when they're taught before she even introduces herself, we have funds that we can pay you through, and he also uses a force persuasion on one of her crew, and I just love what she says. She's like, "Oh, by the way, Roan, I know that you don't have access to any secret Jedi funds, and if you use the Force to mess with any of my crew's mind again, I may forget that I'm your mother."
Yes.
It's like, damn. Oh, thanks, Soul Assassin.
Yeah, that's crazy. So it was crazy. So we have that. So we start getting this whole story develop and how Vader's feeling and basically his confidence, because his confidence is not what we're used to seeing him, because he doesn't have that much confidence just yet. It starts developing and getting stronger and stronger throughout the book, and we'll get to that. And then we, have the confidence of the Jedi, what's going on, and the confusion, the turmoil, what they should do, what they shouldn't do, and all this. And it all ties well. Again, like I said, this is the sequel to Revenge of the Sith. It all ties into that as well. So we have Oli is determined to stop Vader and learn more about the state of the Jedi in the galaxy through Roan. Though Roan is more pragmatic and wants to stay beneath the Empire's notice, and we have that tug and pull. He's basically kind of in sync with Obi-Wan and Yoda saying, "Go about yourself and hide. Hide in plain sight. Be a common person. Put away your lightsabers and be safe," basically. And we have Oli, who's like, "We need to go investigate. We all need to gather a group and see what we can do about this new, this empire that has came to be and what had happened." So we have that push and pull within Jedi.
Yeah, and having the God's eye view that we have, knowing what was going to happen, I just wanted to keep yelling at them, "Oh, for the love of everything, listen to Yoda and Obi-Wan. You're going to get yourselves killed."
Yeah. Yeah, listen, and of course, we already know that Vader went in, or, Vader, because he was still Vader when he was in Anakin before he got the suit. So Anakin went in, or Vader went in and sieged the temple and destroyed it, got rid of all the younglings and stuff like that. They put it in a thing to, have the Jedi come back to the temple, so they set up the trap. And then we know that that had happened, and then Obi-Wan and Yoda went in there and countered that. And so I thought that was very interesting how this is well written in the book as well. So
yeah, that was also another thing because we actually do revisit the temple in this book as well, and it gives another big thing about Vader.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then so the drunk dancer, arrives at the Separatist Communications Center on the moon of
Jaguda, I think. How do you spell it?
I don't know. I don't have that in front of me, but yeah. So
I think it's Jaguda, so it's Jaguda.
Okay, Jaguda. Okay, and so we have that, and so they want to tap into the data banks of, so they can get into, hack into the Jedi Temple's data there to figure out what's going on. And so I thought that was really interesting because in that time frame when they're there, they accidentally activate the droids that are there, right?
Yeah, it was a separatist outpost.
Mm-hmm.
And
go ahead, you go ahead.
They're like, we could use this to our advantage because they got it, or there's a garrison nearby, an Imperial garrison at the time, because it is now the Empire. Yeah. And they're like, okay, we're screwed, but we can also use this to our advantage. They after they escaped, because they narrowly escaped that place. Yeah. They basically kept the droids activated to keep the imps off their tail. And it's and the guy that sliced in, this is during the time that Vader is actually at the temple. Yeah. And we find out that a very important thing about Vader that they should have continued in disc canon, but they didn't. He is too emotionally unstable. And this is actually falls to the original trilogy as well. Why didn't he go down to go after the droids himself? Well, there's a reason. He is too traumatically open to certain areas. The Temple, Mustafar, Naboo, Tatooine. 4 places he will never step foot on or wants to step foot on. He nearly gave himself a heart attack being in that temple at the time. Yeah. How you doing, Steak?
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
We're refreshed and ready to go.
Oh no, I'm dead tired, but I overslept.
Okay. Well, I'm so glad you came. We were like, he may or may not, but it's all good. Yeah. 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 We are on the part where we have the Oli and them. They are on the drunken dancer, and they go to the Separatist, facility on the moon of Jaguda, talking about that, and them trying to hack into the Jedi Temple's, system there to figure out what's going on, why, what's going on with the Jedi and all that stuff. So welcome.
Well, thank you. I'll just continue talking till I wake up.
Okay.
Well, what, do I hear that correctly? I want to double check because understand. I just read this book for the first time on Sunday. The Mustafar was a place that Vader didn't go to because I thought that he had.
Yes, they gave him a castle in Disney canon on Mustafar, but he would never be able to go there again because, first off, it's the one place that makes him, or it's a reminder.
Oh, for sure.
At this time in his life, if he was forced to step foot on Mustafar, it would probably give him a heart attack that would kill him.
Oh, well, yeah, at this point, he's definitely incredibly unstable. I seem to recall, though, that before Disney canon that he did have a castle, but was it on a different planet? Was that what's going on?
Yes, he did have a different...
I was going to say,
he had a castle
did.
on Vajun.
Oh,
he had a castle on Vajun.
All right, so I was recalling it incorrectly then, probably because Rogue One put that image in my head. Fair enough.
Yeah, then it Luke went I think this is in Dark Fleet. Luke went and tears apart the castle and then rebuilds it with the Force. his
Mhm.
father's like building or his temple or whatever you want to call it. So yeah.
Okay, understandable. Yeah, and not only was he unstable, but there were some very small little scenes where, again, people don't always necessarily understand who they're dealing with, but he negotiated a little bit with some of the people, and it reminded me that Vader, he was kind of all powerful, maybe the Vader that we think of in The Empire Strikes Back, but as the Vader that we see in A New Hope, Vader was willing to work with quote unquote the local authorities and make deals. That it wasn't just something absolute.
Yeah.
This was earlier in this book when he was talking with one of Roan's friends and contacts who was a Twi'lek known or called Vito or Vigo or something like that.
Yeah.
And well, it's also explained later that he's dead because Vader really didn't give two shits.
Well, yeah, of course, but I'm just saying that that's also part of things that his character, and that this is also this aspect of it. It's a very infant Vader that we're seeing.
Yeah,
baby Vader, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Baby Vader.
This is basically Vader when he is very, very new still to the whole concept of being in the suit and the Sith.
Yeah. Hello, Ryan. How are you doing?
Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing?
Good.
See ya.
Good. Yeah. So I'm a little late, and I'm also sorry I can't stay super long, but I wanted to definitely stop by. It's been a while since I have read this book, but I firmly believe that this trilogy, this Vader trilogy, if you will, is one of the best parts of the EU, in all honesty, especially if you're an Anakin/Vader fan.
Yeah, exactly.
Indeed.
And we are talking about the part where they're on Jaguda trying to tap into the data banks at the Jedi Temple to figure out what's going on. And basically, we also discussed within this time frame about Roan, discovering who his mother is and how him his dad sending him to the Jedi Temple to become a Jedi is what split up their family. So if you want to go ahead and just give a little bit of feedback on that as well, and Stig, you can pick up on that too if you can recall that. So Ryan, go ahead and go.
So where can you kind of recap where you're at for me right now? I'm sorry.
We are on Jaguda at the Separatist moon, and they're trying to tap into the Jedi Temple's data to figure out what's going on and what's going on with the Jedi. And also, too, we just discussed about how Roan discovered who his mom is, as they fled on her ship. And how the Jedi are him going to the Jedi Order per the dad wanting them to kind of split up the family, or her and her husband. So you can give a little input on that, on those two scenes.
I do think that kind of adds a little lore, because it's not something we got to see a ton of. The idea of you think of Palpatine would probably be like the type of person. The Sith would probably be the type of person to rip a child away from a family like that. When in reality, with the Jedi and kind of how entrenched they had become, I feel like there were a lot of families that didn't feel like you had a choice at all, and it was pretty much just said and done that the Jedi were going to come and take your child. That was their duty as a Force-sensitive child, and kind of shows, again, that the Jedi are very flawed. Especially at the end of their reign, that the Jedi were very flawed. And I did think it was interesting to kind of, for someone who has been a Jedi and just pure never really questioned the cause kind of thing, to then come to this realization that, wow, it's kind of a little bit darker than any of us really could have thought.
Exactly. It, like you said, it lends a lot of lore. It kind of gives you like thoughts of like again, you would think this is a Sith thing to do, but no, but then we have families that are like, oh, my kid's Force sensitive, and they might be the first one ever in their entire family's history. And so they think it's an honor to turn them to them. And, and so I don't know if that would be kind of like a brainwash kind of thing, or like an honorable thing, depending on the family. But this clearly shows that there is discrepancies with the Jedi, and their logic behind everything. So, yeah. So, and then
we saw that during the coffee chat today when we were talking about the Quinlan Voss comic, because the same thing happened to him. He was one of the few who got sent to the Jedi Order from that planet. And
Mhm.
it was absolutely a duty to the Jedi Order thing that just shipped him off.
Yeah, exactly. So that, so like we get to see hints of it and stuff. And then, again, I'll just add this in there, of course, our the original Luke Skywalker character arc, he fixes that either unknowingly or not, or knowing he does, does get resolved. And so I really like that part of that, because we get this whole lore and history of that. And I think it's really, really fascinating as well. So, all right.
And as well, I know you guys probably, it's been a while, so I think you probably might have covered it already, but the like have you talked about how the clones, it's so much different here than in Filoni's Clone Wars timeline, where a chip goes off and they're all just brainwashed. Like, they actually get an order, and they do feel conflicted, and some of them didn't really go through with the orders the way they should have.
Yeah, we covered that.
And you can go ahead and expand. I probably already know where you're going to go with this, but both you and Brian, go ahead and cover that part as well. And then and anything in between, like especially the Vader, Vader trying to settle in the suit and how he feels about the suit, and how Palpatine's like, how he acts towards him, in the beginning, and how he was basically telling Vader, you need to be my enforcer, kind of reminiscing with how, Plagueis used Sidious as his enforcer. So you guys want to do that?
Yeah, well, I think that definitely the best part about this book, in all honesty, is how Vader is so limited by the suit. Mm-hmm. And so to me, this book really gives an excuse, in a way, for the way that we saw Vader in episode 4, when we see him in that duel with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and how slow and limited he is, how slow he walks, and the type of dueling we saw in the original trilogy. In all honesty, I think this book kind of explains all of that, and it gives you a very good in-universe reason as to why Vader wasn't as flashy, wasn't able to do these things, because of how the suit limits him, and the idea that he's in just this like constant pain. He can literally never be comfortable ever.
No.
Yeah, so I think that was cool.
Yeah. And Sticky, you want to add anything to that?
Well, Ryan is right. This is this explains Vader in so many ways, and if you think about it, he's half robot, and all the robots you see in the OT are slow, right? So he should be slow as well, and his fighting style was just to overpower people, basically.
Yeah.
By brute strength. And as for the clones, it's these are the real clones. They follow orders. They don't have a chip. And Jango Fett touches on this, that the clones will do their job, right? Attack the clones. So it's even if they're given bad orders, they will do it, because that's why they cloned Jango Fett, because he's like that too. He's ruthless, but he gets the job done.
Yeah.
No need for a chip.
Well, and that's kind of one of the things I hated about. I didn't like the fact that they made it a chip, but if you're gonna do it, okay. But then you have, just very conveniently, Rex, Commander Rex, or Captain Rex, is for some reason just the chosen one of clones. Somehow he's able to resist, for long enough to let Ahsoka escape, basically. So now you're using these chips, but at the same time, I guess they don't really work. So you just bring back the same exact thing you had before, but this time it's so that because Ahsoka and Rex, anything that needs to happen to them for the plot happens. So
yeah, that's convenient.
Exactly.
Convenience for the plot, so, but again, we're talking about the classical original lore, where the heart of everything is, and where everything was planned and thought out. Right. So we have Jula. She's the pilot of the drunken dancer that they all board, and she has a mission to extract Fangzar off of Alderaan. And so we're getting into that part of the lore now, where they go to Alderaan, and then also Vader goes to Alderaan. And so we have the part of, the droids basically having contact with, was it Roan in there? And they're trying to, mislead them. And then we have, Vader coming in and without any warning, and he's looking for, Fangzar. And then we have Bail Organa, who is basically freaking out because he has basically newborn baby Leia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he doesn't know if Vader's going to be able to sense it since it's his blood.
Yeah. And so Teresa, I'm gonna have you go first. So what was your thoughts about that scene? You can touch upon, just Bail Organa and, his interaction with, Vader and finding out who was coming, because he was like, Bail, he doesn't care. He'll tell how it is, but he'll also kind of undersell the New Republic to make sure that, Leia isn't discovered. And, so he's going to do whatever he can to keep her safe, even end his life if he has to put his life out there. And so go ahead and give your thoughts about that scene, and even maybe with the Jedi coming in and interacting with the droids.
Oh, well, I definitely thought that scene, it was very tense for one thing, and it reminded me in the back of my head, was this the worst plan ever, to have Leia go with Bail Organa and Luke to go with the aunt and uncle? Because it felt like it was a reminder that they weren't really hiding these children, because Bail Organa was sitting there still a major part of the politics. Mm-hmm. But I thought that it was very tense. But I also liked the way that Bail Organa was portrayed, just in general, to go into that, because also there was an earlier scene with him with Palpatine and Mon Mothma, that this guy, James was saying, he really nailed it. But I was tense. Every time Vader was doing these things, I was finding myself frightened for the characters.
Do you guys find it a little hard to believe that, like, I feel like Mon Mothma and Bail were still like so. Do you think that Palpatine would have left Mon Mothma and Bail Organa alive after he took over? Like, kind of like knowing everything that he knew and how aggressive they had been towards him and against him.
Yeah.
I always kind of wonder about, in reality, if since they're obviously alive in the OT, if maybe, especially in the Clone Wars, they expanded the fake Clone Wars, they expanded so much on those characters. It feels to me like he would have taken them out. That's a big threat to him. And
or let them have an accident.
Exactly. So that's kind of what that reminded me of, is just how strong of a character Bail was, and continued to be even after everything that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And then we had the realization of was they in the elevator, or they were still in the room, but they were looking out the window basically. And so I think it was the lift. So I think they were in the lift. Correct me if I'm wrong. And Bail is standing next to Vader, and he's like, "Yes, this is Anakin." So he's freaking out mentally in his mind. This guy is Anakin, and can he sense? And then Vader wants to meet the wife and the kid. And just seeing Bail, as strong as person he is, freaking out in his mind.
I was screaming internally, like it was so tense, even though I knew that he wasn't going to get Leia. I hated it. It was terrible.
Exactly. And then so Stig, if you want to, from what you remember, if you want to touch on anything of the scenario here with, Bail with Vader, or the Jedi inside the temple trying to get in to extract Fangzar.
Yeah, this is my favorite part of the book. It's the the near Leia experience. It's like Teresa said, it's extremely tense, and it's very, very well written. and like Ryan said, they Palpatine would not have kept Mon Mothma and Bail alive if they had been doing what they did in the Clone Wars show.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was, I mean, they were like in his face pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In the old in the original lore, they did it covertly.
Yeah, they stayed in the shadows, and even Bell is like, you know what? We just need to continue with what he needs us to do. We need to, do everything under the table. Basically, is what Bell, tells Mon Mothma, which is not even apparent in the Clone Wars that was even a discussion between the two.
Yeah, and this one, in a little way, ties into the rebellion bits of the Force Unleashed, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Slightly, yes.
Yeah, because they're being covert there as well.
Yes.
And that's 10 years later, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe or more. Probably 15, because Leia's pretty young.
From this time period, it's like 16 years after, or Force Unleashed 1 is like 16 years after this period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because 16 when she was held under, or basically as a hostage, but on Kashyyyk.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, I'm going to get the super chat here. Thank you, Terminus, for the $5 super chat. I'm still getting used to these super chats. If you were to ask Disney Trilogy fans what the planet Ryloth is, they'll most likely say it's where all the Rylos come from. Well, thank you so much for that little cheesy bit there. Yeah, all right, so let's see here. And so go ahead and Orange Chat if you want to go ahead and share any more on what we just discussed about, the Alderaan scene, some of the Alderaan scene. I know that there's a battle on the platform we'll get to as well here pretty quick. So, with Vader and Bell and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, and side note, if Darth Vader lifts you, he's an elevator.
Oh, for
Very true.
crying out loud.
Anyway.
He's been holding
Fangzar with, or on Alderaan, basically he was there, or he asked for, or he was trying to get himself home back to CERN Prime, I believe was his planet.
Yeah.
And, well, by happy coincidence, Vader and the Jedi happen to be going there because, well, Vader is tasked to basically put down some of the protesting and whatnot, and also to see if bring Fangzar back. And Teresa did mention this about earlier in the book, where Bail overhears and sees Darth Vader and overhears the name Lord Vader. He's like, "Yep, one Jedi did survive," and so that's how he realizes that Darth Vader is indeed Anakin.
Yeah.
And so he does. He's like, first off, hide the droids. Secondly, keep Leia hidden. And, well, that doesn't go so well because he's like, I'd very much like to be the queen and your new child. It's like, oh, shit. It's just, everything goes wrong for him. But thankfully, to a very smart R2-D2, Brea is walking to meet up with Bail, and R2 just screeches to high hell to scare Leia, and it works. And he's like, okay. And it's and they see Roan Shrine, and it's like, oh my gosh, man. It's like, you can't. R2-D2 is like the secret hero of the entire freaking series. Let's face it. He has done so much to get people out of so many situations. It's not funny.
He's more responsible than a lot of the human adults. It's even in early EU, like we were talking about Jedi Academy and in Champions of the Force, and at one point Leia's just like, R2, watch the kids.
Yeah.
That's honestly not a bad idea.
I mean, it's like, but also C-3PO is useless at this point because, well, he's mem wiped, or he's already been mem wiped because, well, Episode 3 they wipe him. But R2 still knows everything. It's like you didn't think to frickin' erase his memory.
Mm-mm.
But again, who's going to understand R2's language unless you're a protocol droid?
Well,
but also
it's customary to every, what is about 6 months or so, wipe astromech droids.
yes.
So there might be no reason for them to even think that he hadn't had one. You know what I mean? Now that does go to question why didn't he have one over the following 10 years or whatever. But
yeah, and I can only think about that is that he was never put into action to be to be synced with an X-wing. So he was in basically Antilles' hands. Bail and Oregon and Antilles' hands. So we don't know if he had any X-wing, piloting action to where they have to, might wipe his memory to, sync better with the X-wing. So I mean, so that's never been explained either. So yeah, it's kind of a thing of what people think, like, oh crap, is this a plot hole or what? But when you think about, the X-wings and how astromechs are, basically there to help pilots, and they do clean their memories to keep them in sync with the X-wing. Even though Luke, we know that he never did that to R2 because he synced so well with the memory of his X-wing. So there's those little tiny twists and turns and what if kind of thing we can only think about. Yeah.
Is someone in a windy tunnel?
I don't know.
That's a plane going overhead. Sorry about that.
Oh.
That's on your end.
Yeah.
All right.
Also, one of my favorite parts was basically as soon as Vader actually meets up with Bail, and he's like, just know that if Fangzar does ask for sanctuary, I'll grant it. And he's like, I don't think that is or I don't think that's allowed anymore. And he's like, well, I just love the back and forth between them. And he's like, the old system's dead, Senator. You might want to subscribe to the new one.
Yeah,
he's basically exercising his authority and letting him know, you don't really want to screw with me right now. I'm kind of pissed off. I'm in a hurry. I want to kill somebody. That's basically what Vader was feeling. He's like, I am sick and tired of being put on these menial tasks. I just want to kill somebody right now. And when we get into it, he finds his outlet.
Yeah, exactly. So we have that little banter back and forth, and basically, as Ryan said, is like if Mon Mothma and Bell were so brazen with Palpatine, as we've seen in the Clone Wars and stuff like that. Of course, he would have offed him because we have Fangzar. He's like, he's like basically sending. Well, he's not really supposed to kill him, but he's basically having him extract him. And who knows if Vader didn't kill him, if he would have been dead afterwards, if through Palpatine. So we know that how brutal Palpatine is, and even Vader when someone's not complying to what they want for the Empire.
Palpatine actually wanted Fangzar alive. He actually wanted him alive because he knew that if he had just killed Fangzar, Cern Prime would rise up. He wanted to basically bully him into saying, put down the revolts on your planet, and maybe life might be a little easier.
Yeah, and what about the revolt and like the protests going on Alderaan? Because it goes back to Alderaan being the peaceful planet, and like basically hippie planet. You can probably look at it that way. And so they have the riots or the protesting going on outside of the temple, and Vader's like, well, in the coming months, this is not going to be doable, and so they have that little spat as well. And Bell's like, we offer a place for people to speak their minds and and what they want for themselves and the galaxy or whatever. So we see this the evolution of the Empire slowly taking control, and how Alderaan basically is a planet that has always allowed freedoms that the Palpatine never wanted that wanted to be. So
Vader
now
Vader was looking for rebels and all the wrong places.
Oh, gosh.
All right, so now we're going to go to the platform. So they're trying, Roan and them are trying to extract, Fangzar from the temple, and you know, I forget which, I think it was the east platform that, you know, Jula and then we're supposed to meet them on, and that's where they meet Vader, because basically they find out because alarms go off because of their interaction with the droids. And, you know, then Bria is like, you know what, all this alarms going off and stuff, we can't meet with you guys with the baby. She's crying out of control. I had enough, basically. And so they end up going to the platform with Feng Zar or whatever, and they have their fight with Vader. So, Teresa, go ahead and tell me what you thought about that scene with the fight with Vader on the platform. And of course, we know that Feng Zar, you know, loses his life and stuff. So, go ahead and just share with us.
Oh, it was awesome because I liked the way he described how Vader fought, that he had a certain style with it. And understand, I just read it for the first time Sunday, so I want to make sure I have the right duel. But one of them did. That wasn't the one where the person got decapitated, right? Was that the other character?
I think that was the. I'm trying to think about
That
this
was
too. I think that was the first duel that we saw in the book, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, that was on Mercana with Bolchetok. This is Vader versus Roan without a lightsaber.
Yeah.
Okay.
That Vader flings the saber and he does strike someone. So was there a decapitation there? Because I'm trying to think now.
They do describe it as a near decapitation because it cuts very deep.
Yeah, and once again, just how friggin' fierce. For crying out loud, I didn't think that Vader could scare me again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when he did that, that was pretty intense. And also about these Jedi, like, come on, kids, get the hell out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Near decapitation would be how you make pest dispensers, right?
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, no, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I like the way that they keep kind of going up against Vader, and they're like, okay, and we're Jedi, and shit, sugar, sorry, we're dead, so, yeah.
All right, so Ryan, go ahead and what did you like about that scene, or you didn't like about that scene on the platform when they're dueling, or confronting Vader, extracting Feng Zar saying, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, the senator. So if I again, it's been a little while since I read it. If I remember right, that's when what's Roan's mother's name? Jula. She gets hurt too in this, right? And like basically he throws a lightsaber and it kills the senator and it hurts her, right?
Yeah.
Remember? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and then everyone kind of quickly makes their escape. Nothing really stood out to me too much in that. Again, I think Vader kind of had the upper hand. Obviously, in this situation, he's kind of chasing them down. Yeah, he did have the high ground. I will say that one thing about this book that, like thinking about it and hearing everybody talking about it again, is when you do have, R2 being a part of it, you do have Bail Organa. We're about to get to a part where Chewbacca's in it. It is a lot of like, oh, look at all the, you remember all these characters. They're involved in this one really random story that takes place like a couple months after Order 66. Just happenstance. But other than that, not too much stood out about that specifically. I do remember because I remember when I sat down to reread this book a while ago, I was surprised at how there was so much not Darth Vader stuff in it. Mm-hmm. And I did some looking, and I love James Luceno. He's one of my favorite Star Wars authors, and this was not originally supposed to be a Vader book, which I thought was really cool. It was just supposed to be a story. And as it evolved, they realized that it was going to be focused really, he wanted to explore a lot of things about Vader and a lot of, how he fights, how he's dealing with everything. So I do think that's something that was pretty cool, that it didn't start off as a Vader book. It just kind of evolved into that. And that's why we get so much ancillary stuff as well.
Exactly. And, so it's brilliantly written, even though it's not supposed to be a Vader book. It fleshes out everything like, not moments after Order 66, or actually basically, yes, or moments after Order 66 implemented. And then we get into, what, Vader and how he feels about everything in the suit and all that. So it's such a great read, even though there's a lot of different exposition inside the book that leads, like how the Jedi are coping and how these few Jedi that we have in the book are coping with realization that they can no longer be. So
also, we get to see Vader hunt down Jedi.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Kenobi said he would. This doesn't happen in. I was convinced this was going to happen in the Rebels show, but it really didn't.
Mhm.
And also, this book serves as a perfect duology with the Kenobi book, because both of them branch out from Revenge of the Sith. So you get to see what happens to the two combatants at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
Mhm.
And you also have the end, right?
Yes.
The end of this book like ties right into. I guess I haven't read that and Kenobi right back to back before, but I know that the end of this book, it's definitely like, oh, Obi-Wan realizes what's happened, that Vader survives, and he contacts Qui-Gon, right?
Yeah.
Qui-Gon contacts him.
Yeah. Because he's Time King. So we're kind of jumping ahead there, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Laura, I'm sorry. I actually have to get going. I can't stay super long. I need to get back on here for an official one where I can get in on the whole thing. But thanks for having me. It's been awesome talking with you guys, and I'll talk to you later.
All right. Thank you for calling.
All
right. Bye, everybody.
Take care and be well.
Awesome. All right. So now we are going into.
Wanted to give my thoughts on it first.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, I got distracted.
Okay. But actually, one thing did stick out in this, and it's actually kind of an Empire Strikes Back moment because Roan Shrine actually confronts Vader in the palace first, because he knows that if he sees him, he'll follow him, and he's like, "No lightsaber, not really Jedi-like of you," and he tried taunting him, and he's like, "All right, time to show him who he's really messing with." And when he fires off his shot, Vader deactivates his lightsaber. He's like, all right, no. Sticks up his hand, and he then turns the bolts. This is the first time that you actually, in Legends continuity, that Vader turns aside blaster bolts with his hand.
Yeah.
And he also tries reflecting or deflecting some of them right back at Shrine, but well, Shrine is very quick. And we also get flying Vader with, well, not flying, but jumping a lot. I mean, he's basically a kangaroo in this scene.
So, if he did that in space, it'd be Space Invader.
There you go. Yeah. But yeah. And it's actually Bail that kind of, Bail sets down a not an energy dome, but like a solid dome to kind of separate Fang's R from Vader, and that's when Vader throws his saber. He realizes if he's like, I'm not letting them get away with him. Well, here's the thing: as well, or you did kill him, you killed Fang's R, but you had to face Palpatine after that, and he's like. He's like, I told you to bring him back alive.
Yeah.
And why couldn't you just bring him back? There were and he's like, oh, geez, you're Jedi again, huh? He just would not stop. Palpatine would not stop goading Vader.
Oh, no.
He was pushing Vader. He wanted Vader to... He wanted to know everything about how or what ticked off Vader, and he actually recalls one of Plagueis's lessons. Tell me your greatest strength, so I may know how to undermine you. Tell me your greatest fear, so I may know what you need to face. Tell me your greatest, and so on. And before we get to Kashyyyk, he basically, when he realizes that Vader is pissed off, he's like, he's like, send Vader to the Jedi Temple to get some holocrons and whatnot, and he's like, to deflect his hunt or his thirst for Jedi, and he's like, no, to sharpen it.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and
he
I like. Go ahead.
he just really, he knows, he's realizing that Vader's unhealthy obsession with the Jedi can actually ruin him, can actually turn him away from his teachings, away from becoming more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I should probably send him to Mustafar because force him to relive that nightmare. He's realizing that he needs or to play to Vader's strength, but he also needs to get Vader to really, he's trying to get Vader on track, and he's slowly realizing the best way to do it. But he's also pissing Vader off the more he does it.
Yeah, he wants him to build his anger, to build his power, and that's one thing I do. Like hurt and anger and all that will sharpen the dark side for like Sith and dark side users, and that has been one of my arguments when and I'm just going to go there right now with Kylo when he got shot with the bowcaster. He should have been more stronger by harnessing pain and stuff from that. And so this is a great example of that. And so we see him being sent, actually before he's sent to the Jedi Temple, I believe it's before he's sent to the Jedi Temple, he's talking with Tarkin.
Yep.
And Tarkin's telling him everything, but we have hints in the talk of the new super weapon that they're building. We already know what that is, and how slow, how there's been setbacks and stuff, and that's why it's taken so long for it to be built versus the second one, and how they need more manpower and all this other stuff. And basically, Tarkin tells Vader, Palpatine knows everything, and even if you don't tell him, and and then Vader's realizing that Tarkin knows everything too, but he doesn't. So he's kind of like realizing, hey, who am I to Palpatine? Why am I not privy? And Tarkin is, kind of scenario as well. And then of course we get him back to the temple. And so Teresa, so what did you think about that temple? That scene of him going back to the Jedi Temple. How did it make you feel?
Well, just like all of those scenes. Because he's revisiting it, but revisiting it now as more machine than man.
Mm-hmm.
And as Orange Hat was saying a bit earlier, that those are the part of the areas in his life that he avoids because deep down he still feels the trauma deeply. And when I say the trauma, in this case, he was the one inflicting the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like Vader tends to avoid things with unhappy memories. And perhaps that's what led him to the dark side, is we need to embrace our unhappy memories as much as our happy memories, because you can't erase them, but you can integrate them and learn from them. So that's what struck me.
Yeah. And so, Stig, from what you can remember, how did that, with that scene going with Vader revisiting the temple after he destroyed it and the feelings that it provoked in him or evoked in him, what did you think about that?
Well, it ties into how Luke senses the conflict in Vader, right?
Yeah.
We're reminded that there is some Anakin still there.
Yeah.
But Palpatine is actively trying to kill that off.
Yeah.
By putting him in situations and places where Vader's rage would take over, right?
Mm-hmm.
More rage, more pain, more Vader.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And Orange Hat, I know that you opened this discussion with the temple a little bit, but if there's anything else you want to add to that?
Basically, it is him basically forcing him to confront his failures and his darker aspects. And while he is there, he also recalls the Nightfall, where he went with where he sacks the temple, and one of the things that I loved was how he talks about killing the younglings and
Yeah.
how he remembers it. He's like, I whisper, looked into the Force, and the dark side basically whispered, they're orphans. Nobody's
Yes.
going to care.
Exactly.
And also other places too. And it was the earlier scene where he has the breakdown health wise when he realizes that he's not going to be able to go to certain places. But
Mhm.
he also realizes this place should never have been built. The Jedi were seriously hypocritical in many ways, and they were so flawed. But he was also tasked to go there to get holocrons, the Darth Bane holocron,
Mhm.
which is revealed afterward that it's like, yeah, that's a forgery. That's a replica. Because Palpatine already had the real Bane holocron.
Yeah, that was
And
interesting.
he sent them there strictly. He's like, yeah, you're gonna go there. I'm not gonna tell you, or you're gonna get some of the Sith holocrons that I need you to get. But what he's not telling them is like, yeah, you're going there because you're a pain in the ass and you need to be taught a lesson, basically.
Yeah.
And when everything starts and this actually will lead into the Kashyyyk thing because the next part actually takes place a couple weeks later. But he's
Yep.
like, and then he's realizing that, or Palpatine is told by Masameda that there's problems going on Kashyyyk, and he's like, he looked into the Force, he saw that Vader's on Kashyyyk, he saw the Jedi will be going to Kashyyyk, and he saw that uh, a lot of things are going to happen there. And
Yeah.
he's like, all right, now it's time. This is it.
Yeah.
And he baited Vader perfectly. He's like, the Jedi are on Kashyyyk and they're setting a plan or a trap for you. And he's like, nothing would please me more right now. He's like, then go, boy. Then
Yeah.
go.
Are you
Wreak
ready for
vengeance.
this fury? Yeah.
This is where he unleashes Vader. This is Vader unleashed. And it's beautiful.
Yeah. So speaking of Kashyyyk, now we're going to Kashyyyk. And we have, Oli and everybody that's on the Drunken Dancer going to Kashyyyk, and they get on there, but they have to go present themselves as smugglers, and their mission also they go to seek out Yoda, and so they talk to the smuggler, and I forget his name. So if you remember his name, please let me know. And they basically, I don't have the book in front of me. I should have grabbed it. And anyways, and he basically says, you need to prove to us that you're a Jedi. You guys could be imposters who killed Jedi, kind of thing. And we already know that the Wookiees have life debt towards the Jedi because, Yoda, helped save them, helped them on Kashyyyk at one time and stuff. And we do get Chewbacca. So he makes a cameo. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. And so we're on Kashyyyk, and Vader is sent over there, and he starts the bombardment. So, and then we get this, this whole, space battle versus the ground battle with Vader versus the Jedi, and how they want to, catch everything on fire. And this is kind of in remnants of too when Jason Solo, bombards Kashyyyk as well. So we have those two parallels going on right there. If you're well versed in the EU, you can kind of see the similarities in that. And
full circle.
Very full circle. And so basically they want to capture the Wookiees as slaves. And then Vader also wants to get rid of what he thinks is left of the Jedi and stuff. So to totally purge them and stuff. So Teresa Martin, go ahead and tell us what you think and expand on that scene in general. We'll start with you.
Well, we continue the tour of where it's like these characters are the Forrest Gumps of the galaxy. It seems like they're just bumping into everything and getting themselves involved. We'll get, what did I think about it? To me, I just saw it all just so thematically. I was seeing it as a tour almost by this point, that this is leading to the enslavement of the Wookiees, and that it would also kind of set in motion the events that would make Chewbacca end up going off and being teaming up with Solo.
Yeah. And so, what do you think about their realization that Yoda's no longer on Kashyyyk, and so they're left to their own thoughts and devices about where Yoda is and stuff?
Yeah, and I thought it was great because it drove home they're on their own, kids, that they can't look to daddy anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It was sad. I mean, yeah, it was what it was. Sucks to be them. I mean,
also doesn't this Kashyyyk bit tie into the Force Unleashed as well? Because
slightly, but not really.
Yeah,
it inspired the Force Unleashed.
Yeah,
the beginning of it, anyway.
Yeah, because the Force Unleashed starts when the Wookiees are being suppressed, basically.
Yeah.
And then he finds that kid,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's still entwined.
It is still entwined. And so we have Lord Vader. He's like, I don't like how Chewbacca knows Yoda. Chewbacca is the one that helped save or get Yoda off of Kashyyyk.
Chewbacca and powerful.
So that's in the movies. That's established in the movies. So I don't think there's a big problem with that whatsoever. So we have, of course, we have the old, after Order, or after the Clone Wars stopped. Basically, all the troops left Kashyyyk. So they left all of their hardware, all of their battle stuff, and so how handy Wookiees are. So they took them and started converting them into their own stuff, into their own weapons and everything like that. But they also, the Separatists, also a lot of their droids were shut down. So I think they had a ship with that carried the drones or the droids, above Kashyyyk there too as well. So they had that. And so this starts leading up to the fight that, started ensuing and going into the fight between Vader and Roan. But we'll get to that here pretty soon. So Orange Hat, just a little bit about how the revelation of, what I asked Teresa, what do you think about just the early part of Kashyyyk, them going on Kashyyyk and realizing that, Yoda's no longer there?
Yep, and this is actually something that we overlooked. After the Fangzar incident, Oli Starstone and Roan actually parted ways for a little bit. Oli went to search for more Jedi. She actually finds them, and that's what leads to the Kashyyyk thing. Because Roan isn't there. It's just Oli. It's just Oli and the other Jedi that were there that she found. And they were wondering what happened to Yoda. Do you know if he survived and whatnot? And they said, yeah. But then they found out that an Imperial presence is coming. And they're like, we just endangered you. And the guy that you're talking about, the smuggler guy, who talks with the Wookiees, I remember how he greets one of the 501st, and he's like, and they're all like, yeah, they're being extremely racist towards the Wookiees. One of them calls them just wild beasts and whatnot, and when one of the 501st raises their rifle to the smuggler, a Wookiee just blasts right past him, grabs his arm and just punches him, and the arm's still in his hand, and it's like, yeah, okay, this is where it all starts. And then that's where the Jedi actually start fighting against the Imperials. And at the same time, as this is going on, Vader has arrived, but he's also this is where he's actually talking with Tarkin. And he's getting to know Tarkin, and, well, he's getting reacquainted with Tarkin, Rogue Planet and all. But yeah, that's another book. But everybody else is greeting him like, Lord Vader, Lord Vader, Lord Vader. And he's like, well, I guess this is going to be the new norm. And he also puts another imp in his place. He's like, everything I say is basically an extension of the Emperor's command. So if you got a problem with me, take it up with the Emperor.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I do love how that whole scene went, because Chewbacca is basically talking to them, telling them exactly what happened. how the clones just suddenly turned. There was no warning, and it's like, and this is where Oli is like, so some clones followed the order implicitly, where others questioned it,
Yeah, exactly.
and that's because some Jedi, if I may, some Jedi, um, they got to know their clones. They got to fight with them. They had, even though they're not supposed to, an attachment to the clones. And the clones return that attachment in favor. Where Yoda, old school Jedi, he doesn't have any attachment to the clones. That was
Mm-mm.
one of the things that kind of ticked me off in Clone Wars with the very first episode with Yoda teaching the clones. It's like he would teach them, yes, but he would not have any honorable attachment to them. They are expendable. They are not, or they are bred simply to basically die.
Mm-hmm.
And
Whereas the clones training happened on Camino anyways.
exactly that too, but also training on Camino gets you so far. It's
Yeah.
the real thing that
Mm-hmm.
basically makes you the sum of your experiences, as the Emperor said.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Yoda is the one that's basically the consular of the whole order, and of course the Grand Master. So his when you look at the lore, despite that, he isn't the one that's going to be in the forefront training and stuff like that. He's going to be the one that's basically counseling and and basically the overall commander in chief, I guess you will.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff. So that part I really didn't get as well. So we get into the thing of like the battle droid ship that's up there, above,
Oh
disabled above
yeah,
Kashyyyk, and then we have the fight with Vader and the Jedi and stuff. And I thought it was really, really neat between the banter between him and was it Oli, because she's a Padawan, and then
Oli was a Padawan, yes.
yeah, and then Roan, and so she's up there trying to, go face to face with Vader, and Roan's like, get away, flee, go, and he's like, basically, yeah, I do what your master tells you. He doesn't want to lose another Padawan, and I'm like, oh man, he's cutting deep right there with Roan and stuff like that.
Yep.
And how they're bombarding and Vader's ship gets destroyed, and on top of that, they're trying to flee, and Chewie is trying to save as much Wookiee as they can, and they're also using the drunken dancer to, basically jam pack that ship with a bunch of Wookiees and trying to, get them
Get him
off
out
the
of
planet. Yeah, get him to safety, and then they activate the gunship, and they learn how to reprogram it so that it fires, at their ships that are coming to Kashyyyk as well. So, Teresa Martin, so what do you think about the fight between, with Oli, then with Rome when it comes to Vader? And we'll get to the very important part of that fight in general, with Rome's vision shortly after this.
Oh, okay, because part of what struck me about the end of that fight was the peace that the character had. Yeah, and
add that, because that's also an important part, because we also learn, he also discovers why Vader is fighting the way he does, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, and in a way, he loses the duel, but he wins.
Yeah.
That's the part that struck me. The technicalities of these kind of situations when I read don't necessarily stick with me, but I thought that was incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that last scene of their fight, and just the turmoil that the Rashers are on fire,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to flesh out the Wookiees, because they know if they burrow into their forests and stuff, they can't find them, because they are so in tune with their environment, and stuff. And I think it's very interesting how they extract them and everything as well. So
Mm-hmm.
Steve Kenobi, from what you remember of that part with the duel with Roan and Oli and Vader, and that whole scenario, go ahead and expand on that a little bit more.
Well, Vader really shines, I guess, in this scene because the guy's a Terminator, right? At this point, and the ending I thought was very Star Wars-ish because it was it was a bittersweet ending.
Yeah.
Which tends to happen often in Star Wars. It's like, yeah, we had a success, but this and that guy died, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was in tune with George's vision. I would say very much so.
Exactly. All right. So Orange Hat. So again, what do you think? What was so brilliant, or what do you think about that scene with Vader? And like I said, I like the part where Roan discovers why Vader fights the way he does. So
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant. So
Basically, before Roan came in, the other Jedi, led by Oli, go up against Vader, or basically cementing the fact that there was a trap set for him, even though there really kind of wasn't. But he's like, okay, so this is that trap. Lol. Kind of like to channel a little bit of lethal lightning here. I mean, he basically shakes off those other Jedi like nothing. He slices one's leg off, another one's head off, and he dispatches them like really quick, and he's like, who's next?
Yeah.
Exactly. He's like, so who's next? Okay, you're next. And he actually gets Oli to channel her rage. He's like, use your rage. That's the only way you're going to beat me.
He basically trains her a little bit because he's like,
exactly.
He's telling her how to fight, and then she's realizing if I put too much effort, blah blah blah, then he's waiting for me to exhaust myself, and then he starts basically training her in a sense.
And that's when Roan comes in, but also Commander Appo, who actually had a cameo in Clone Wars, came in, and it's like his head just rolls right up to Vader, and he's like, I liked Commander Appo.
Oh yeah.
And that's when Roan comes in. He's like, get your ass out of here, help the Wookiees, and go. Yeah. And there was also a very beautiful part with the whole separation of the whole fight and whatnot, how Vader was using surgical bombardment strikes. He wasn't just blasting willy-nilly. He's like, oh, also, save this spot for last because I really don't want to get vaporized. And there's a moment where Chewbacca realizes that Kashyyyk is lost, and he just wails because of it. It's like, Kashyyyk is lost. Those are very prominent words in the book. And then Roan gets in there. He's like, you really are mostly machine, aren't you?
Also, in contrast with Rebels, in this book, Vader kills Jedi like a badass. In Rebels, he can't even defeat Ahsoka, who's a Padawan.
Exactly, and it's ridiculous how that happens. It's like, seriously, one Jedi Knight earlier in the book. Lol. Well, oh shit, you actually got my arm. Not bad. You're headless. Then the other two, it's like, yep, gotcha. You're nothing. And then he just basically laughs it off. And then getting into the fight with Roan, you see mirrors of the fight with Luke. One with Oli, where he's telling him, use your hatred. That's the only way you're going to beat me. And then with Roan, he starts throwing shit at him with the... He starts throwing pieces of plank and board at him and beats the crap out of him with it until he's basically beaten. And he's like, before I go... And he actually found out, you're Sith, did Dooku train you? He's like, or is it Darth Sidious who trained you? He's like, not Dooku, not yet by Darth Sidious. Then tell me, who are you? One of the lost 20 or whatever? And he's like, I'm the 21st. Surely. You've heard
know,
of Anakin Skywalker.
yeah, you know about
Yes.
that was like that was just well done right there, because he's clearly, the chosen one, Anakin Skywalker, and Roan's like in disbelief, and and I wish I would have posted this or put it on the thumbnail, but there's that picture of there's a picture of Vader dueling Oli and Roan on Kashyyyk.
Nice.
And so there is a picture of that, an art of that, and yeah, so the realization of that, and just hearing it, like reading it is great, but just hearing it on the audible as well, and the shock and the feeling of that on the audible, oh my God, it's so friggin' golden. It's golden. It's one of a kind, and you would always think, if you didn't read the story and you like, I need to see a story of Vader slaughtering and hunting down the remaining Jedi, this is the book to read. And if you ever thought like what one of the last Jedis may have thought that Vader took down about who he really is, this is the book to read.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
One other thing that whole fight, it was actually very beautifully well done, because he also tells Rowan one more thing. He's like, I gotta thank you, Vader. It was you who renewed my faith in the Force. And he's like, very true, and it's you who renewed my faith in the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it shows that Vader was still conflicted at this point. He's like, is this the right path? But, well, now, yes, it truly is, because I am literally feeling it as I'm fighting him. And then the ship blows above, and he's like, I think you just lost your ride.
Yeah.
And that's when Vader looks up, and then when he looks back, Roan's gone.
Yeah. Exactly. He's like gone, and he's like basically on his last string too. But so like he had that vision, because we know reading this in the beginning, Roan couldn't have visions. Like they said, you meditate, you will start learning, you'll start seeing visions, and you'll start experiencing this and this. And Roan's like, I've never experienced that, but he would experience like fog, like foggy scenes, foggy this, and he was like always beating himself up that he's not strong enough as a Jedi. And then when he confronts this last confrontation with Vader before he dies, he realizes that he was getting visions, that he was seeing this.
Yeah, he saw his own death, and he also saw a mechanical black fist reaching in.
Yes. And so that's another thing that gave me chills right there. And so on that vision, on that revelation of Roan, and realizing that, he's always been a Jedi and he's always been worthy enough and stuff. How did that make you feel, Teresa?
Oh, I was just saying that's the part that impacted me so much. It was an affirmation of faith that went to the very heart of what this is all about with Star Wars. Yeah. It's even when terrible, horrible things happen like this, it's not about despair. It's about hope. And a thing in the chat, someone saying like, yeah, I got goosebumps. It's like, yes, it was beautiful. It was almost poetic. I was really shocked at how it read like poetry to me. I don't know. Maybe I was just tired and emotional, but it really impacted me.
Yeah. Yes. It's very. And Steve, what do you think about that?
I didn't feel a damn thing because I'm a Viking. But yeah, it was incredibly well written, and this is one of the best books the EU has to offer, I guess, in terms of how it fleshes out Vader and how it ties into other stories, and how it even ties into the OT.
It does.
There's foreshadowings, and there's mirroring and all kinds of stuff all over this book. And yeah.
Yeah. I want to reread this book. I feel like I only just skimmed it, like just reading it the first time. I feel like there's so many nuggets I need to uncover.
You want to know something funny?
What's that?
Sure.
I haven't read this book in years yet. How's my recall?
It's phenomenal, and I'm just enjoying, like, oh, by the way, this scene. So it really impacted you, and this is like one of the strongest books in the EU.
That's because this is indeed one of my favorite books, because I'm able to recall it that well because of all the great moments in it.
Yeah.
Lucino truly wrote a wonderful book, and it is a crime that Disney did not use this book.
I'm kind of glad they didn't, because I
True.
hate just to have. I mean, yeah, they did okay with the comics, from what I hear when it came to Vader, but there's no way I don't think that this would properly with the way they are taking Vader and
Yeah.
all that. But I could be wrong, but I'd rather it not be touched. And
Very
what
true.
is very interesting about this book is when Stackpole was meeting with George Lucas himself about writing Revenge of the Sith novelization, James Luceno sent with Stackpole like questions regarding which direction that this book should go.
Mm-hmm.
And
And-
so even though Luceno wasn't there meeting with the man himself, he did help develop this book as well.
Yeah. Who wrote Episode 3 novel?
Michael Stackpole.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so we're going to come to the one of the last scenes here, the very last scene, and Obi-Wan, he's now in exile, and he was at a cantina there, and basically the Hollow News, has reports Darth Vader, and he gets to see Darth Vader, in the armor himself. And he's like, who is that? Is that Darth Vader? And the guy that's sitting next to him is like, you will never speak of that word for the life of you, basically. And Obi-Wan freaks out, and they're like, are you okay? And he's like, yes, I am. I think I'm just dehydrated. And so they give him something more to drink. And then so he flees from there. And basically, Qui-Gon reaches out to him because he's like, what should I do? Should I flee with Luke or not? And we get that scene with him communing with Qui-Gon. So Teresa, go ahead and and tell us a little bit more what you felt about that and expand a little bit more on that.
Sure. We'd always kind of wondered about when Qui-Gon was going to start talking to Obi-Wan, and we know from the Obi-Wan book he wasn't talking to him yet. So I recall being a little bit confused, and then I got sorted out on that.
Mm-hmm.
It struck me, though, that Obi-Wan was thinking what I was thinking throughout the book about when Vader almost found Leia, and why on earth did they even bring the baby Luke to Tatooine? And it was, and Obi-Wan was thinking, oh my gosh, do I need to find somewhere else and all that? And then this is where it was almost not a Deus Ex Machina, but God, quote unquote, intervened and kind of made a little bit of sense there in that it's the will of the Force. When I say God, of course, small capital G, but the will of the Force, it's like came in and it was like it explained it. And I don't know if it was a cheap trick or whether I just actually bought it. It's like, because the Force willed it, that's why they were doing this. Because the Force willed it, that's why Luke was going to be there. And we know that the Force, the living Force, the will of the Force is all-encompassing, because Luke had to be there at the right time, to be when the droid showed up, and then it all fell into place.
Yeah. So Steve, Mr. Kenobi, our friend Kenobi right here. So what did you think about that?
I thought it was a perfect epilogue.
Yeah.
And you could also have put this epilogue in the Kenobi book.
Yeah.
Because this links them together, and the epilogue feels almost like a lost chapter from the Kenobi novel.
Yeah.
Because this chapter also concludes the Kenobi novel in a sense, because Qui-Gon finally talks to Kenobi.
Yeah.
So it's it's like those two books, the Vader book and the Kenobi book, both get a satisfying conclusion together in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need a Vader book or a Kenobi book after that, because you know everything you need. And perfectly done. And this is what happens when you have really good writers that actually plan their stories.
Exactly.
This is what you get. And this is what the EU fans were used to. This was the normal quality of a Star Wars comic or a book.
Exactly.
You know?
Well done.
I
So,
really need to get that book.
yeah. Oh, Kenobi?
Yeah,
Yes.
I haven't read it yet. I'm gonna
And I always encourage you guys to grab the novels, get them, put them in your collection, whether you find it without the label or with the label, whatever. But also the Audible for Kenobi is unabridged, so you get the whole entire story.
Mm-hmm.
That they don't, just keep it plot heavy. You get the whole entire story. And so on that last one with Kenobi, how did that, make you feel about the ending there, the prologue for that?
Me?
Yes, you.
I absolutely loved it. He's just in there, and then he hears about the Kashyyyk and Jedi, and he's like, "What the hell were they thinking?
Mm-hmm.
What in God's name were they thinking?" And then he hears Lord Vader, and he's like, "Oh, damn! I gotta get." He's because he was also trailing Luke and Beru and Owen because they were there, and he's like, "Okay, I gotta talk to them. I gotta get." And then it's like Obi-Wan, and he's like, "What the heck?" He just stops dead because he was in full panic mode, and then he just hears Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and he tells him, he's like, "Is Darth Vader? Is Anakin still?" He's like, "Yes and no, but you also do not need to worry about Luke's safety. Anakin or Vader will never set foot on Tatooine because out of fear of reawakening Anakin."
Yeah.
I have a very recent bit of Star Wars news.
Oh?
Yeah. The late Carrie Fisher just became a grandmother.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
To...
Billy Lord just as a kid.
Nice.
Well, yeah.
Well,
Don't tell me the kid's name's Ben.
All right. So we're going to go. I have to switch over to Queen's Council, which I'm hosting on my channel here. It's here at 6:15. So we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. There's a lot of details we didn't cover, but we did flesh this out pretty well.
Yes,
But if you guys didn't read along, that's okay. Right now, go to my Twitter and vote on the next book to be reviewed at the end of October. There's different styles, so go ahead and vote on them. We have Princess Leia, we have Shadow Hunter, we have Death Troopers, and we have Rogue Planet. So go ahead and vote for the one that you want to follow along. Get that book, read it, and then we will, come back here again and do a review at the end of October as well. And I'll tell you who's going to be on the panel or not, and we'll go from there. So you guys, thank you so much for coming in. And Teresa, please let us know where we can find you at. So plug your channel.
You can find me on YouTube at Miss Martin Music, where we talk about books, music, movies, travel, or just about anything that I feel like talking and musing on. I'm also on Twitter, Teresa2_Martin.
Okay. Thank you guys so much. And I will have her, or actually I do have her, I believe I have her link in the description below. If not, then I'll add it here by tonight. And Stig Kenobi, I know you guys know where to find him. He was with me this morning on Coffee Chat. You can find him on Twitter. So is there anything else you want to add, Stig?
Yeah, if you're a blue-skinned Twilight, you can find me in bed.
Yeah, we got to talk about Ayla a little bit. Her introduction to the EU through the comics. Yeah, so he's still dreaming of his blue Twi'leks. Of course. All right.
Which is probably why I overslept.
Probably. You had some really good dreams. So, yeah, thank you so much for popping in. I'm glad that you rested well. And thank you so much. And Orange Hat, thank you for coming in last minute. I was like, I know you really privy with the Lord. I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll bring him in. And sure enough, it worked out quite beautifully. So plug your channel and everything else that you need the guests or the chat to know.
Alrighty, my name is Orange Hat Reviews, and thank you for thinking of me for this one. This was a true honor. I do movie reviews, entertainment news. I also do versus streams and movie discussions on Friday nights. Tomorrow night actually is episode 15 of my versus streams, which is Punisher versus Grim Knight, an evil version of Batman. And Yeah, I've basically been on vacation this week, a little mini vacation to kind of recharge the batteries. But next week I plan on doing more new entertainment news and reviews and whatnot. So you can also find me on Twitter at Orange Hat Reviews. Well, take out the A in orange because of, well, Twitter. But yeah, you can also find me on YouTube, Facebook, even if you really want to connect with me there. That's basically where I am most of the time. But yep, thank you for having me on.
All right, and thank you guys so much. We are going to keep this like once a month or once every 2 months, depending on what we're reviewing. And so I encourage you, once we know what book we're going to review, if you don't have it, pick up the book, even the Audible, just to follow along and, participate in the chat as well. This is what this is about. And again, thank you so much. I'm OG Star Wars, your Legends girl, trying to make it in this canon world. And you guys all have a great night. May the Force be with you.